Hello, this is the task presentation about skills and approaches by Pamela Hurtado and Lizardo Toledo. We are going to start with the context of the school, and the school is Colegio San Alberto Hurtado Pudahuel, which belongs to Fundación Belén Educa. The school has 1,534 students, which 61.5% of the students belongs to the most vulnerable people in the country. The school has 8 English teachers, and we observe Miss Mabel Cárdenas. She studied at Universidad Playa Ancha. She is 29 years old, 7 years of experience, and 5 of these years has been working at San Alberto Hurtado Pudahuel. She is in charge of Sexto Básico, and the grade that we observed was Sexto Básico A. The school has support from Cambridge University.
An approach is a belief or a philosophy about the nature of language and the learning theory. In Miss Mabel's case, we were able to identify 2 approaches in terms of nature of language. The first one is the structural model. This approach considers language as a system of structures, for example, grammar, phonological or lexical elements that are related, and all them together convey a meaning. For example, in terms of grammar, there are letters, words, clauses, phrases, and sentences. And after that comes the semantic, which gives the meaning of all of these elements. For example, and it's important to say that all of these elements can be learned as isolated ones. So at the end with the semantic, they will agree on a meaning. How did we know this Miss Mabel was a structural model? Here we have 2 evidence. Both of them are very similar, but the first one here, she's teaching action in progress. So here she's like giving a list of the conjugation of the verb. The do and doing, eating, getting, and having, etc. In the second evidence, we have here the grammatical operations, in which she shows here the change of the verb. Here she presents the word work. Here she shows them in work is the action, working is the action in progress. She makes the both different. The 2 difference. And here she presents the same word in action in progress, in positive, question, and negative.
The second approach that we could identify with
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The second approach that we could identify related with the nature of language was text-based instruction. The text-based instruction is when the teacher based the content of the class on a book and is repetitive and monotonous. Here in the evidence we can see when she says that the menu for today is based on page 29 and 28 of the book for the use of English.
In terms of learning theory, we found out that in this approach it's behaviorism. Why? Because in this approach, in order to learn the target language, the learners must repeat and imitate. Here in our evidence find out that, for example, Miss Mabel asked the students to repeat the date. Second, repeat June the 2nd, 2016, or 2016. In the second evidence or example, here Miss Mabel asked the students to listen and repeat their routine. Besides the imitation and repetition, behavior also involves punishment and rewards. In this case, Miss Mabel was asking for attention, so as she didn't, or as the students didn't pay attention, she asked all the row of the classroom to stay clean and tidy their desk. If their desk weren't, they won't have break. All these punishment was like in order to call the kids' attention. Now we're going to talk about the method. A method is how the belief or the philosophy is organized. In this case, first we have the objectives. The objectives are the learning outcomes that are selected to the method. Here the teacher, Miss Mabel, uses a menu. So every day, as the evidence says, they write on the whiteboard what are they going to do that day. In this class was action in progress. Second, the skills. Miss Mabel in her class encourage and develops both skills, the reading and the listening. In this case, we can see that she asked the students to open their books on a specific page, and then they have to read and listen at the same time a dialogue between Pauline and John. The second point is the syllabus. Here we can see what kind of content is selected. In this case, we have the subject, what it is going to be taught, and the linguistic, how. In this case, in the school, they hired a council from Cambridge, from primero to sexto básico. So basically, what Cambridge do is they send volunteers to the school to help teachers and students, and also these people like guide teachers in their activities and how they should present their content.
Regarding types of learning and teaching, the school hired a council from Cambridge, as we said at the beginning of the presentation. Here, at the evidence, we can see that the content is based on a book. The student must fill the gaps, they have to complete sentences, they have to read, listen, and check the activities.
Also, the other kind of activity Miss Mabel uses is it's a software. This software it's basically songs, and it's not part of the Cambridge book. The main purpose of this software is first motivation and encouragement for children to pay attention to the class, and also it's a distraction from the previous classes and the other subjects the kids have seen during the day. Here in the evidence we can see that the song is about the places in the house, so they actually have to find where is the little monkey. Here in these activities, the only thing kids have to do is repeat.
Regarding learners' role, they are passive recipients. They have to repeat and imitate what the teacher says. We could observe that they are not active learners because the teacher controlled them. In the class, she said 15 times in silence. She said, pay attention 23 times, and the most common was shh, 212 times. This is to control the students.
Regarding teacher's role, we consider here that Miss Mabel's role is specifically to be a guide. Why? Because since of this Cambridge advice, the units and the topics are given by the book. The first point functions to fulfill, which is the content that it's appropriate to deliver. As I said before, it's given by the book. Here and in this evidence, we can see that the activity and as letter B, letter C, the alternatives are given by the specific topic or the unit, which is a storm is coming, and the answers are based on the dialogue. The following point is the control of learning. In this case, we believed that Miss Mabel is in charge of the learning, in spite of the units and the topics are given by the book. Why we consider this? It's because in this specific evidence, Miss Mabel is giving the option, in this case, the pronouns that help students to understand which pronoun replaces the weather, or the weather or the wind. So we can say that the learning and all that involves the learning process is centered on the teacher. In terms of the control of content, it's basically from the book. Here, Miss Mabel divide the pages of the unit into 8 or 10 classes. In this case, here we can see that this activity is all based on the audio from the book, and the answer and what they should learn from this specific dialogue and activity, it's given by the book. Also, here we have the interaction, which is what happens in classes between the teacher and the student. Here we can see from the evidence that it's basically, as we said in the previous point, the learner's role. Kids are very passive, and Miss Mabel is the only one who speaks and says what is important to learn from the activities and from what she said. Here we can see that silence and order and respect, it's one of the most common words in her classes. Also the 1, 2, 3 listen when they have to hear a dialogue or something from audio from the book.
Here we can see the instructional material. The instructional material, the first things that we are going to see is the goal of the material. The goal of the material is basically content that is given by the book. Second, we have the form of material, which is the book plus the software where the student can listen a song. The source of input is the book, and here we have the description of the book given by the Cambridge page, and the description says, and the main point of the description are grammar and vocabulary, which is the things that the students can learn from the book. The fourth and final point that we are going to speak about the methodology is ability of language. Here we could see 2 specific issues that the teacher had, and it was grammar, where she doesn't pronounce the S at the third person conjugation, and pronunciation, where when she said minutes and it's minute. But the most important point that is aside, we saw in the class that she speaks Spanish, but after she speaks English at least 3 times the instructions. She speaks Spanish when the students don't understand, as we can see here in the evidence. ¿Estás seguro? And then she continues with English and Spanish at the same time.
Finally, it's the procedure. A procedure or a technique, it's what happens in terms of the methodology or what was planned inside the classroom. That means the moment to moment inside of the room. We could identify that Miss Mabel uses the audiolingual model, which is the memorization, drills, repetition and imitation of the language targets. We could see in her class that there were a lot of lists of vocabulary and grammar elements. It's also relevant to say that there were coherence between her method and the procedure or what happens inside of the classroom. In the 90 minutes of the class, we could see that the activities and the routines and the menus that she planned were all of them took place inside of the time that she expected. So the time management and the content expected to be seen inside of the classroom happened.
As a conclusion, we can say that Miss Mabel's approaches were structural and text-based instruction. Also, we can say that from the learning theory she was a behaviorist. Plus, we could observe a coherence between method and procedures. As part of the reflection, we can say that the teacher developed the receptive skills, that is to say, listening and reading. As a consequence of this, the students were not able to produce the target language, which is speaking and writing. And they were not able to speak in English during the classes, and the interaction that they made was in Spanish.
Finally, we also could observe, and it's something that called our attention, is that basically the decisions about what is appropriate and necessary for the students to know, it's not a decision made by the teacher. And this is basically, as we said a lot of times before, that it's a decision made by the Council of Cambridge and the school. And it's like, for us, it was like shocking to realize that the teacher was constrained by the decisions of other people, and how and that basically she's not involved in the students' learning process.